and good afternoon or good morning if it's the morning for you. Now, we all remember this day in February 2020 when the news concerning the Diamond Princess cruise ship sent shivering thoughts in your minds, right? And can you imagine, it was like 20 or so people infected on board a cruise vessel containing almost, 3,000 or 4,000 passengers and crew, poised for quarantine in Japan. And now if that seemed like a nightmare then, fast forward to the month of May, and all cruise operations halted worldwide. Carnival Corporation, which is the largest cruise operator with more than 100 ships, they alone spends more than $600 million a month to maintain their ship idle. Now, tens of thousands of passengers and crew members stranded at sea, sometimes for a month. And even now, we have crew members that are still being repatriated as we speak in their countries. And of course, a total lack of visibility as to when cruising might resume and under what conditions, whether economical, logistical, health, or operational. So as Sophie said, my name is Bertrand, and as a student today would confirm, my true passion is cruising. And to tell you a little story, I cried the day I joined my very first cruise ship, which was a Seven Seas Mariner in Vancouver as a junior officer. And not because I was scared or unhappy, but because I knew I was about to live my dream. And I have worked both on ships and ashore for 2 ultra-luxury cruise lines in various management roles. And truly, it was the best time of my life. Now, seeing the industry hit so hard today by this pandemic has been a real heartbreaker for me. So I decided, with the support of my IUM student, to bring a little help to the industry by having a thorough analysis of the impact of COVID-19 on the cruise industry. Now, this project, the project you'll see today, has been managed under the authority of the International University of Monaco, which is a leading global business school, obviously based in Monaco, specialized in bachelor's, master's, MBAs, and DBA programs linked to finance, luxury, yachting, and hospitality. Now, the project was conducted by all the students, the 24 students of the Master of Luxury Hospitality program. You will have a few of the representatives of this class today presenting. And it was done under the guidance of the team at Vitervius Partners Group, which is a leading change management and ecosystem redesign advisory and training firm located in France and the French Riviera. And we work mostly with leisure, hospitality, and luxury industry clients. Now, first and foremost, I want to thank very sincerely Dietmar, the president and CEO of CMI Leisure Management. Now, CMI, based in Miami, is obviously a leading ship manager operating mainly in the high-end small ship expedition market. And thank you, Dietmar, for your collaboration in this research project and also for introducing the students' work today. I also want to thank the entire Master of Luxury Hospitality class for their truly excellent work. I think you'll be impressed when you see it today. And that took place over the past, 4 months now. And guys, as a message to you, I'm really so proud of you today. It's even difficult to express in words. And you conducted this difficult project with pride, with professionalism, and with a true sense of purpose. So today it's about you guys, and it's about what you've been able to create, and truly I can't wait for you to share it with us. Now, last but not least, I'd like to thank also Sophie De Lorenzo and Annalisa Tarquini from the International University of Monaco for their support. And of course, my friend and colleague Lilian Bougie for his support to the students during those past few months. So Dietmar, thank you again, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Bertrand. First and foremost, hello everybody from Miami. I'm looking out my window. I can see 3 cruise ships off the port of Miami. So it's still the cruise capital of the world. And for myself too, thank you for having me. Thank you for the invitation, Bertrand. Thank you also to the International University of Monaco, of course, and Sophie, and doing this. And when I heard about it, I said to myself, it's always important to work with our students, and this is the future of our industry. The bright people coming out, we're always looking for talent. And at the end of the day, to work with the voice of the future is a privilege. So thank you for having me. Now, of course, what can I tell you here from Miami? I've been in the cruise industry for 35 years plus. It has been a wonderful career for myself, and I'm still loving it, and lots of passion. But looking back quickly, I was sitting here in December. We had our parties, and 2019 has been the most successful record year for many companies, in particular for the cruise industry. So of course, it feels different too when you fall from the plateau, you know, very deep down right now. So 2015, we just came from a record year, most of us, the industry booming, everything was better than ever. Now we have a pandemic, of course, a challenge, and that happened to all of us. So quickly, you know, where are we today? As you just said, I mean, as an industry, besides, you know, the entire hospitality tourism sector have been hit. And for us, it became more clear than ever that we are an international business. And in the past, you know, we are no strangers to, you know, 9/11s, to economic crises, and we always had regional opportunities to make up for it. But this time it's worldwide. It's definitely global. And we are global players. So we feel it more than ever. And you did mention, you know, the certain ships, you know, our public relations situation, and that we feel like this time the cruise industry within the whole travel and tourism business, we've been hit the hardest on this particular pandemic. Now, what's in it for us, you know, and I look forward to hearing the solutions. Of course, we have been very active as a cruise, as an industry between our Cruise Line International Association, the CDC, but, you know, it's a regional situation right now. And talking in nautical terms, you know, when it comes to trade winds, what are our trade winds? Right now, you know, I think once this whole thing is going to go away, we find cures or remedies from, you know, testings, but medication. But the main thing is going to be most likely a vaccine, you know, take the concern and the fears and safety away, or, you know, all the concerns from our guests. I mean, what is good for us is definitely cruising. We have a lot of fans out there and they're waiting to come back. At the same token, you know, we have also a lot of headwinds because, you know, going on a cruise now under these circumstances, we have seen, you know, how does this play out internationally? As you mentioned, we still have crew members as we speak today ourselves, you know, and we are interdependent in the travel industry between airlines, ports. We're not alone and we cannot manage alone. It's a total interdependency, the business model. And, you know, airlines are not operating limited flights, so crew members, etc. And we learned also international organizations and how we cooperate as hospitality people. And I think the biggest challenge for us is a concept called social distancing. Now, social distancing in a way is a cure, you know, for this pandemic. But what does it mean for our business? It's almost like an oxymoron. It's the opposite. We are looking at social gatherings. What we do is social gatherings. So this whole concept of social distancing and how we're going to manage that in the future is a big challenge for us, because at the end of the day, hospitality means social gatherings, get together. So there's another little dark cloud up there. But overall, I have to also say that our industry, when it came to regulatory issues, protocols, and even past, you know, outbreaks, we always been an industry, and our mission is and will always be above and beyond compliance. So we have done this, and we have rigorous standards on board the ship compared to any similar hospitality complexes. So I think all in all, that's where we are today. You know, the hospitality business here in the United States has opened. Restaurants are open, so they're ahead of us. And as you, I don't know if you're familiar too, we just announced, or the big guys announced, no sale order continuation before September 15th. And, you know, we know also behind the scene, I think every region, being in the EU, being in the United States, there's a lot of talks, flights opening. So, and being an international business, we need to wait and see. And all in all, I think the way we get back to business will be slowly. It needs to be phased in. And I think that's all from my side. I'm looking forward to hear the voices of the future. And, you know, looking forward, we'd like to be mentors. We need you in the business. So please consider cruising as patron. Myself, it's a wonderful career. And come and see us. You know, it won't be over. But let me quickly close with, you know, one of my mentors, Mr. Richard Fain, you know, and being in the business, when he says, when you're in the middle of a storm, it feels like it will never end, but it always does end. As a strong and growing industry, we are going to be in a position to move forward at a fast pace when it does. And being in storms before, I have to say, and Patron knows it too, the sun will always come out.
Yeah.
Without further ado, I'd like to, introduce Clara at this moment and look forward to hearing from you.
Thank you, Dietmar. So right now we're going to enter in the core of the presentation. I will let the floor to my colleague Hugo that is going to explain you the aim of the project and why we worked on this.
So thank you, Clara. Hi, everyone. So I will present you the aim of our project. So in the extent of our field of study that is around hospitality, event, and also tourism, the class had the opportunity to work on the corporate project well suited in what's going on today and on the society. Understanding the impact of COVID-19 on the cruise industry and providing after a real recommendation plan based on change management. So it was a real opportunity for us to learn from a concrete case and test our creativity and also managerial skills. But what exactly the impact of the coronavirus on the cruise industry? So now I would let my colleague Julie Amaid elaborate on that.
So thank you, Hugo. I'm going to explain how we worked on this project. So we divided the class into groups with one leader. The goal was to be efficient and relevant in our researches while maintaining a certain coordination. So we conducted secondary data researches with online articles, websites, surveys, and opinions of travelers online. The goal was to highlight the industry parameters to understand the market and the impact of COVID-19 on several departments, to understand what is harmed and where to work on. We then conducted primary data researches with the interviews with C-level executive of the cruise industry. We asked questions about the personal experience, their thoughts and hopes for the future of the industry. And then we did online surveys for industry experts to have their opinions and feeling. And also we asked cruise passengers to understand their current image of the cruise industry and if they will cruise again. Then we did the analysis of the data collected and the explanation of the impact, which led to the creation of a recommendation and opportunity plan to improve the home departments and adapt the cruise industry to the post-COVID society. Now I'll leave you with my colleague Camille, who will explain you the context.
So, as we all know, in 2020, the entire world has been placed into lockdown, and this has completely frozen the economy. So, in result of that, all industries have been affected and harmed, but most importantly, the tourism economy. This economy has been affected on a higher level and is now facing a really important crisis. It can be said that the tourism in general has been really harmed by this situation because it is impossible to travel due to closed borders. And on top of that, the fear of people due to COVID-19 is rising extremely rapidly. Part of this tourism industry is, of course, the cruising industry, and this is really our focus today. This industry is being hit even harder in every of its aspects, and it's different in various departments. It's obvious that ships are generating huge waves of travelers coming from all over the world, and this makes a big melting pot. Now ships are deeply affected by different factors that are firstly the fear of the guests, but also the fear of the crew members, of course. Secondly, the borders that are still closed. Thirdly, the fact that they are limited to non-flights for transportation means for guests and members also. And last but not least, the fact that there is no sale order from government, most importantly. It is also crucial to talk about more in details about the departments affected that are in difficulties right now. So firstly, regarding the financial aspect, it is obvious that the impact on this department is huge. And one of the main factors for this is because companies need to let billions of expenses to maintain the ships without making any revenue, since there are no more guests on board. So this is a really crucial point for the financial aspect. Now, concerning the marketing and PR departments, companies are focusing on communication with their guests in order for them to be aware that they are and that they will ensure the safety of ships and sanitary measures, of course. Marketing and PR is also part and is closely linked to the passenger trust and retention, but is also a crucial point for the cruising industry right now. And this really focuses on keeping the relationship and trust of customers, but most importantly of existing customers. One other important factor is also the cruise engagement. It's really important since they are representing the brand image of cruising at all times. And the fear for them is also really present. They faced difficulties, as we all know, for example, going back home. And we can say that their mental health was really challenged during this time. And on top of that, right now, there are no possibilities in regards of hiring in the cruising industry. It's very difficult. Lastly, the operational and logistic approach is really to take into consideration is also very important in regards of, firstly, the suppliers, the new building of ships, and also really important, the creation of new itineraries, as for example. Now, all of those factors are leading to changes, and also there is now a real need for adaptation, and this will need to be created and done in cohesion to all cruise lines departments and companies and international associations. So now I will let speak my colleague Christian Esnault about our recommendations.
So, thank you very much. So after that, we've seen the entire problems the COVID-19 has done to the cruise industry. We're going to look at the recommendations we could do. So first of all, we'd like to say that, as we saw earlier on, the COVID has obliged the cruise industry to stop completely. And that gives a type of opportunity to focus and review the strategy of the current traveling trends. So we have to remember that the new travelers and the future travelers are going to be millennials. And these millennials are born after 1984 and they grew up with technology. They're also aware of the environment and socially responsible. So we need to keep that in mind. We also want the cruise industry to keep on doing carbon neutrality, zero plastic policies on board, and in order to have a great positive impact and to have a competitive advantage on other industries. So first of all, I'd like to talk about the new itineraries and cruises. So we review that the itineraries, due to the COVID-19, we want them to see new and exclusive parts of the world. However, what we did is we created a survey from the IUM students in this group, and this revealed that the top 3 destinations that are post-COVID that people are interested in are the Mediterranean Sea, the North Caribbean, and expeditions such as Antarctica and North Pole. So we would like to emphasize on organizing itineraries closer as well to the target's provenance. So for example, MSC Italy, go on the coast of Italy and the Mediterranean Sea, and Carnival US on the coast of the US, of course. We also would like to emphasize on private beach experiences. So if cruise ships and cruise industries invest on a private island or on a private port, this could limit the contact with the exterior and enhance the customer experience without touching anyone around. So the second point is reducing passenger capacity and customer experience. So as we know, we're going to have to reduce passenger capacity on board due to the COVID, and this will affect the revenues and they will be limited. However, in the positive way, this will give more space to customers and it will avoid the crowds. We believe that the cruise industries should check medical history prior to boarding, because that would enhance customer experience and makes them feel safe. It would also enhance the comfort on board and the personalization of service. In the third part, we'd like to talk about ship's configuration and crew on board. So we know that the operations are going to get back, however, with a limited fleet. And that's going to mean that they're going to have to reduce the number of ships to focus only on one area and probably have a better control of the ships. The organization and settings on board will have to change, for example, throughout the restaurants, the theaters, and the public areas due to medical safeties. We believe that if the cruise lines take temperature screenings prior to boarding, on board, and during disembarkation, this would give a competitive advantage, and it would make the customers feel much safer and coming on board a cruise ship. As we know, tests of coronavirus have been demanded in a lot of countries, and we believe that if a cruise ship has some COVID-19 tests on board, this will maybe enable consumers to be more interested in their cruise lines against others. We would like also to say that by reassuring the passengers, but also the crew, this would make them feel safe, and the crew would be engaged by, for example, enhancing the work conditions of the crew by keeping the comfort and engaging them by offering Wi-Fi and communications, but also keeping in touch with their families. We believe that we could also engage the crew by organizing a weekly meal on a specialty restaurant with department staff and managers to reward them and allow discussion and talk about their opinions, how they feel on the boat, and through the safety measures as well. On the fourth point, I'd like to talk about sanitary measures on board. So we know this is one of the biggest points in the future of the cruise industry after the COVID, and we believe that increasing sanitary measures will enable the operations to get back to normal. We found an air cleaning system called Hygiene C. It's a real immune system for ships because it kills 99.9% of bacteria and airborne viruses by recreating the sun UV lights, and this meaning that the ship is much more safe. We also believe that there are self-sanitized doors. We found a company in Italy that create them if there is no possibility to have automated doors, and thus the touching of proximity will be lowered and it will gain confidence in the customers. Enhanced ships and from the design and the materials is very important. We would like to enhance the fact that optimizing staterooms, sanitations with materials like copper that inactivate bacteria is very important, because the fact of medical safety issues will be lowered. Also, as we know, because of the crew will be, there will be less crew, we believe that for a short-term solution, cleaning robots in public areas are very interesting. Lastly, the medical facilities. So, as we know, we're going to have to enhance these medical facilities on board in terms of procedures and machines. And we believe that if a cruise ship is able to cure any disease or health issues on board as much as in a real hospital, customers will be much more willing to come on board. We also believe that if a cruise line hires more staff with medical skills and stress management, it'll be the same thing for the customers. They'll have a better experience and they'll want to come more on board. And finally, this is for a crew part, is that for medical facilities, we believe that training the crew and the staff for these new types of viruses would be a very good idea. If the staff wears a mask, how do they transmit an emotion? How do they manage a crisis? How do they place customers in quarantine if there's a big problem? So thank you very much for listening to me. Now I'll pass you on to my colleague Clara that will finish the recommendations part.
Okay, so to keep on going into the recommendation parts, we decided to focus on one main aspect that is extremely important, that has been extremely important during the crisis, but even after, that are the new technologies. In fact, we realized that customers of cruise lines were extremely engaged on the social networks with their preferred cruise line, because they managed to keep a close link online with the existing target and even the potential one by raising awareness about the process of cruising. But also, we realized this fact thanks to the survey conducted by the students. More than 47% of the respondents to the survey said to be highly active and engaged on the social network page of the preferred cruise line. So it has played a leader role. Also, some cruise lines have used VR to organize virtual cruises, which means that each day the passengers were able to go to virtual destination different each days. So this is something that the cruise lines need to elaborate on. They need to keep this link to the new generation, millennials, as we know that they are very focused on the use of social media and new technologies online on the social network. Another important fact of using the new technologies goes on board of the cruise ship. We know that some cruise lines have been using new technologies and gaming on board to enhance the experience, first of all, but also this is going to play a leading role post-COVID-19 crisis. The first suggestion we could have is to remove the cruise card. As we know, cruise lines are using cruise cards given to passengers that are extremely useful during the cruise, to pay, to enter the cabin, just to register. But right now, this is not the best solutions because cruise cards are going hands to hands. This is not the good solution right now. So what we suggest is to replace this with ID bracelets that will be constantly worn by the passengers. Those bracelets are going to be linked with an app. So this app will be useful prior to boarding in order to personalize the cruise. So for example, if the passenger wants to add dining options, excursions, spa treatments, he will be able to do so. But also during the cruise, what we want to do is that, for example, a passenger is just having a good time around the pool and he wants to order a drink or a plate. He will not have to stand up and move around the ship, but he will be able to order this through the app, directly calling a waiter. So this is going to limit the unnecessary movements on the decks. As well as this bracelet is going to allow the cruise line to localize the passengers on the decks and thus avoid any crowds. Another important fact and suggestion concerns the marketing and PR strategies. So as we explained before, it's extremely important now to focus the marketing and PR on maintaining a close relationship to the existing customers. Why? It's very simple. The existing customers already have a strong attachment to cruise lines. They know the experience of cruising, whereas the potential customers don't have this experience yet, so it might be a little bit harder on the short term to target them directly. So the cruise lines need to focus on this existing customer database by making advertising about the safety on board and the new hygiene measures that have been taken, focusing on the medical facilities and the staff trainings, with the only aim to give trust back, because this is what they need now. If cruise lines want to go back to operations, they will need to bring this trust back from customers. Another important fact concerns the prices of cruising. We believe that cruise lines will have to reduce the price in order to be attractive, but also to adapt to the spending power of individuals. As we know, the COVID-19 totally impacted financially the companies, but also the individuals. So the cruise lines will need to adapt to this new situation by several means. For example, on the website, they could organize special offers and reductions. But here again, more aligned with our millennials target, they could organize contests online on social networks to make them win reductions or even added options as, for example, dinner to specialty restaurants or spa treatment, because this is going to engage the customer by a call to action, but also giving them the desire to travel again and have the experience of cruising. And finally, concerning the marketing recommendation, this one is more related to public relations. As we know, the relationship between cruise lines and medias during the crisis have been extremely tarnished. So what we suggest is to invite the local medias, as for example, Carnival is going to mostly cruise around the US coast on the short term. So they could invite American medias on board to show them the new measures that have been undertaken and that it's now safe to be on board actually, just to gain the trust back, improve the relationship, and they will be able to transmit this feeling to the public. Another recommendation concerns the self-service buffets. So we know that the self-service buffets are a huge representation of the cruise lines. People love to go there and have a meal at whatever time, whenever they want. But of course, we know that it's generating huge waves of people around it. So they will have to be replaced and even removed now concerning the situation. So what we suggest is that instead of totally removing the self-service buffet, cruise lines could recreate a buffet served by staff, but the food and beverages served will be changing every day depending on the location of the ship. For example, if a ship is having a cruise around Italy, I don't know, Sicily, for example, then the buffet will be serving Italian dishes, and the buffet will be in different places of the ship each day. So for example, one day the buffet will be served around the pool, then the other day would be around the casino, because the aim of doing that is just to allow people to rediscover the ship, because we know that when we go cruising, we don't necessarily have the time to enjoy some time on board because we go outside on excursions. So this is going to allow people to rediscover totally the experience of cruising. Another recommendation that we have is much more related to the millennials target. We know that millennials in hospitality and luxury in general are seeking for personalization and tailor-made products and services. So what we suggest is that cruise lines could reinvent the dining experience by creating tailor-made restaurants and bars, meaning that the guest would be able to choose the ingredients he wants to have in his plates or in his drink to enhance the exclusivity and the feeling of control he has, because he will be drinking and eating something that he really likes and he made, in fact, himself. And finally, to fill the loss of the self-service buffet, we recommend the cruise line to create new cruising package with several restaurants, specialty restaurants directly included in the offer in order to fill the loss of the self-service buffet. Another solution that we had concerned the stricter embarkation process. We know that passengers prior to boarding, they have to go through cruise terminals, but this is generating huge waves of people at the same time. So what we suggest is to create embarkation time slots to each passenger or family of passengers. They will have one butler and one security person dedicated to take them to the ship, and they also will be in charge of disinfecting the luggages before bringing them on board. This is extremely important. They will go through UV lighting, destroying all the bacteria, and temperature screenings. So the fact of doing this, of course, it might be a little bit contrarious, but it's also here again enhancing the experience by giving more attention to the passenger and giving a certain luxury dimension to service directly when boarding actually the ship. Another idea that we have here again related to the embarkation is that we know that when we want to board a ship, we have to give a lot of papers and formalities. But here again, this is not really good because we want to avoid any contact with people outside. So what we suggest is that here again, linked with the app previously mentioned, we want people to directly register on this application by giving all the informations as well as the credit card, and he will be able to check in by taking a selfie approved by the cruise line. But this is going here again to limit the contact, and it would be much more convenient even for the passenger. He will not be losing a lot of time in the cruise terminal. And last but not least, it concerns the cancellation policies. So as we saw even directly at the beginning of the crisis, cruise lines have directly set cancellation policies for people that booked a cruise, meaning that they were able to cancel the cruise up to 48 hours prior to boarding without any fees. We conducted a survey, as I said before, with the students, and we asked a question about the expectations of the cruisers post-COVID-19 crisis. And we asked them a question about the price cuts and the cancellation policies. And we realized that more than 45% of the respondents were expecting to see those cancellation policies lasting on the long-term basis. Why? Firstly, because this is giving flexibility, and this is giving them much more trust and control. They feel that they have the control over their booking. So if something happens, they will be able to cancel. So they will tend to book more, having the insurance to be able to cancel if anything happens. So we suggest to make this policy last longer, as well as giving them the possibility to have future credit on board if the cruise is cancelled, of course. So to conclude this presentation, we would say that the cruise lines really need to adapt now to the needs and to the expectations of the targets by being more than ever flexible, willing to take the passengers away from their daily routine and to the stress due to the post-COVID-19 situation. We understood that the existing customers of cruise lines really have the desire to go back cruising as soon as possible, to rediscover this amazing feeling of being at sea and just being away, in fact, from any issues, to live only a memorable experience. So we really have positive thoughts for the cruise industry post-COVID-19. And just to let you know, we created a full report with a lot of details. So upon request, we'll be able to send it to you if you're interested. Thank you for listening. Now we are available if you have any questions or even comments. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, guys. Well done. Excellent. And again, as you mentioned, Clara, this was a very short presentation, but very comprehensive. And there is obviously a lot of work. They've worked for about 4 months on this project. And there's a comprehensive report that we can make available to whoever would be interested. And you can contact me directly, or Sophie De Lorenzo at the University of Monaco. We'll be happy to share that report with you. So thank you very much. I think this is a time for questions. If you have any questions, please make sure you unmute first.
Yes, Pierre Bertrand, I would like to have a question.
Go ahead.
Well, my name is Constantin Penussi. I'm from School International Monaco. We are the largest organization in travel and tourism in the world, as Bertrand is one of our members. And I'm president, and we are residing here in Monaco, and we are doing very well with all cruises everywhere. Clara, you did a very good presentation. Congratulations.
Thank you.
One point that I would like to point out to you and also to Dietmar is that to start with, the Caribbean cruise, we used it for our school International World Congress from Miami in 2019. And I'm sure Dimitri knows all about it, and that was done very well. We had 550 participants on that World Congress, and that has been noted as one of the good congresses that we have had. And about 3 years ago, we had the same starting from New York. Now, the point that I would like to mention, and maybe you can add it to your presentation for the future, is the stimulating fundamentals of the marketing in the travel and tourism worldwide and hospitality. If you ask Dimitri, he will tell you actually that I would like to ask him to see what is the percentage of the bookings that Caribbean cruise get from the travel agencies and cruise consolidation. Dimitri, that has not been pointed out here to us and has been omitted from presentation of marketing. And I think actually that is one of the points that should be considered as a point that the travel and tourism in the world is serviced well and beyond the imagination by travel and tourism, by the travel agencies and consolidations. And when you omit that one for your marketing, that means that you are shooting yourself in the foot. Am I right by saying that, Dietmar? Can you reply to that one, please? And tell me how much you are going to support the travel agents and cruise consolidation to be able to revive the business of cruising in your part. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. Of course, you know, as you mentioned, the major distribution channel, I mean, in the US for sure, and worldwide, it goes through, you know, third party, through travel agents, and that's crucial. And, you know, statistically, yes, we're talking to a travel agent. Of course, you know, they're hurting in the business here. Some have better funding than others, but the travel agents are detrimental to our future business for sure. And, you know, statistically also, depending what cruises, as they mentioned, you know, the desire was more in Mediterranean cruises or expedition cruising in the Arctic or Antarctica. And those specialized cruising, 90% of the specialized cruising are sold through travel agent networks. So, I mean, for us, yes, travel is very important. And, you know, we're working with them on a daily basis. I mean, they are, you know, our distribution arm. And, you know, there are a lot of different conglomerates or consolidated situations and networks. But yes, I think we are very close with them. And also, the whole, commission and cancellation policies and how we work together and solve this big puzzle and challenge for us.
Yeah, for the young people to know that there is one saying in the travel business: without a travel agency, you are on your own. That is for the marketing side, meaning that if you look at the cruise ship, as well as for the passengers or travelers, without the travel agency, you are on your own. You are completely lost, and you cannot really know what you are doing with yourself. And this is why that should be taken on board of your presentation, which is vital. Thank you.
That's a good point, very good point, actually, because, a cruise by itself is a much more complex vacation experience, and it needs an expert like a travel agent to really give you good advice.
I was going to say exactly what Dietmar says. By nature, the cruise is first probably a bigger expense and also a much more complex product, because there are so many different cruise ships, and one cruise ship might be good for someone and not very good for someone else. And it's very important that you select the right cruise ship and the right cabin on board and the right add-ons and everything. So the cruise ship industry historically has been relying a lot on the travel agency, much more than other parts of the leisure industry. And I'm sure this is going to continue and even strengthen. So thank you very much. Other questions maybe from other participants for the group or for Dietmar?
I have one. This is Bruce, Nuremberg.
Yeah, Bruce, how are you?
How are you doing?
Welcome. Yeah, very good to see you.
Good presentation. Had a lot of really good ideas and good points, and you guys have and girls have done your homework, obviously. I've spent the last couple of months working a lot on the health and sanitation area, and some of the people in this who are watching this today I've talked to, and people like Dietmar and Peter Holt and folks who some of us have been good friends for a long time, and we've lived through the good times and the bad times, which is, I've always felt that you learn more from your mistakes than your successes in a lot of ways. So I hope our industry takes the same role here. I thought I'd share a few things. I can't disagree with the vast majority of all the things you're saying, because they've been well thought out. But I thought I'd just suggest, it's not so much a question, but suggest some things that you might want to consider adding to your final review. You need to separate the current circumstance the cruise industry is into two phases. There's the pre-vaccine phase and the post-vaccine phase. And the pre-vaccine phase, which is going to last at least to the end of this year or until a vaccine is readily available to the general public, it's going to be virtually impossible for a cruise ship to guarantee that a passenger is not going to be exposed to a virus, no matter how much you check them, how many times you take their temperature. The fact of the matter is, people need to get to the point where they'll be able to protect themselves, be vaccinated, and provide a proof of a vaccination before they go on any vacation, not just a cruise ship, but resorts and every place else. That will be the dividing point. So if we say the rest of the fall and the beginning of next year, we're waiting for a virus, until then, during this phase one, you will have to do social distancing and masks and gowns, snorkels, masks, fins, scuba tanks, whatever it takes to protect the guest on board. The problem is that's only a short-term solution, because there isn't a ship that's ever been built that has a business model that supports success financially at a 50 and 60% load factor. So it's only something to be used during the pre-vaccine period. It is not the final solution for cruising. People want to go back on vacation to get away from their daily lives, to have fun, to recreate, to meet new people. They want to actually say tourism is a form of gathering together, not gathering together. And the fact of the matter is, they're going to want to have the experience that they've loved for the last 50 years while the industry's been growing. So we need to get to that point. And so it's important to separate the two. There's things we're going to do short term, and then there's things that are going to happen after we have a vaccine. Because once you have a vaccine and people can be certified and provide the proof that they've been inoculated and they've got the peace of mind that they've protected themselves, they can go anywhere. Secondly, if the cruise industry, if they do the right thing and prepare their vessels as physical plants to protect the sanitary environment on board, as a combination of not just the purified air, which, by the way, focusing in on PCO, the photocatalytic oxidation, is by far the best process. There are several vendors. Hydrant C and Peter's company at Viken does a great job. There's a few other products. Let cruise lines can decide whatever one they want to use as long as it's got the right specs. But the fact of the matter is that is the best way to purify the air and to create pathogen-safe environments on board ships. As long as you have enough power in your systems and enough chemistry behind it that it works. What is forgotten here is that only works where the air conditioning works. So you need to make sure that you have solution protections for your surfaces through all the non-air conditioned spaces by the pool, but where the tables and chairs and chaise lounges are, everything where people are going to be exposed. There are all kinds of products out there that protect in that regard, and they're readily available. So what I'm getting at is there is a packaged solution to providing 100% safe sanitation and health for guests on board now and in the future. What they should be doing now in the cruise industry is they've got 300 ships laid up all over the world. This is the perfect time to make the changes in the physical plant on board the ship so that you're ready when the vaccine comes in January. Then you can go to your customers that are your loyal supporters for all these years and say, we've got you covered no matter what happens. You protect yourself with the vaccine. We've protected you on the ship. You work with the ports of call, which, by the way, a lot of the things that are available technologically today are portable enough that they can be used with the ports of call so that when the people are coming on and off in the ports, they can use a reasonable level of resanitation as part of the process. Those things exist today. These things are just as important to the crew as the passengers, as you mentioned. And I also think that we shouldn't discount our senior markets here. And when I senior, I'm talking about mature, because you mentioned that this is primarily a product for millennials. Well, the 5,000 passenger ships are, but the largest travel segment in the world is the mature market baby boomers. They are entering their mature years. They're the ones that Dietmar takes care of on all of his small ships all over the world. And I can tell you, they're very loyal travelers. They're very frequent travelers, and they are going to be some of the first ones to bounce back because most of them are retired and affluent, and they have a significant reference to the stock market, their 401ks, and that's bouncing back before any of the other economic situations. So if you give them a safe environment to come back to, and we provide the protocols on board the ship and an embarkation like you described, plus other things, the fastest people to return to this product are going to be the mature customers who travel as a passion, as a way of life. And some of the ones here in the domestic markets close to home are going to be the ones first back. But the largest travel segment is not the millennials. The largest travel segment is the ones who are your post-war baby boomers. And they're the ones that pay the highest prices. They buy the highest per diem products. And they're less subject to crowds. As a matter of fact, one of the reasons they like to go on small ships is because they don't like crowds. So that fits pretty good. Let me see. It was one more thing I wrote down here listening. And one of the things, your attention to the media, public relations work and stuff like that is really a very important recommendation for you to push. Because as you've noted, and we've all felt, the media absolutely created an unbalanced position for the cruise industry, reference other tourism, resorts, on all those horrible newsreels that I saw on CNN and Fox and everybody else with the people in their masks and their cabins on ships around the world, couldn't get off. I mean, I didn't see one message from any resort in the world, and I can't believe that they didn't have similar types of problems at all their locations as well. Yeah. But, you know, cruising is a sexy destination. It's a sexy vacation, and we benefited that for many, many years in growth, in our growth rates. So, but here's the thing, is if we do this right, and people understand what's involved, and you've got billions of dollars invested in hardware in these ships, and to spend a couple of $100,000 if necessary on a vessel, a big ship, to go ahead and make it the ship of the future as far as sanitation and health and protecting the crew and the passengers, by the way, let's not forget the crew. The crew are going to be more of a focal point than ever before because of what's happened in this pandemic with the authorities. Anyway, the public relations aspect of this, of maintaining a position that if the cruise industry could talk to each other a little bit, get a little bit unified on this approach and come out with a protocol that they would present to CDC so that they would say, here's what we would like to do. We'd like your opinions. Instead of playing cat and mouse with these people, I think we would go a long way to creating the best PR message, and it would flip it entirely so that when the media would be able to report on what the cruise industry is doing, we would be basically in a leadership position instead of on the tail end of the dog here, which we've been for the last 3 months. So your recommendations on solid PR and solid marketing strategies to go ahead and reintroduce these. Health and safety is not a competitive issue. Nobody should be ever be using that as a competitive advantage or disadvantage. But the subliminal message is that there's going to be companies that do the right thing, and there's going to be companies that are going to try to get by with as little as possible, and nobody will have to market the differences. But the consumers are pretty smart people. Contrary to Donald Trump, our best president, Abraham Lincoln, that was not Donald Trump, it was Abe Lincoln. And Abe Lincoln said, you can fool all the people some of the time and some of them all the time. This is one of those cases that this has gotten so much attention and so much publicity that the consumers, the travel agents, everybody involved in our industry is going to be very interested in what we are doing as ships, as companies, and as processes. So a lot of the stuff in here is really good. And I think we can all, as industry members, flesh it out even more if you ever want to go ahead and do that. But there's an opportunity here, and I hope my cruise brothers and sisters take advantage of it. I'm doing what I can on my small part to go ahead and keep them as informed as possible. But there are a lot of great products out there. There's no reason not to have the solutions. This is not the time to say that what the trick is to close public bathrooms, spray more disinfectant, and have social distancing. That's a short-term solution. It's going to disappear in 6 months. And they need to understand the difference between now and then. Matter of fact, if the economics made sense.
Bruce, nice to hear your voice. Wonderful spoken as usual.
Yeah, no, what we have to do is make sure that we do not not take advantage of the opportunity to get these ships throughout the fleets all over the world ready now. So when they come back out, they really have solved the problem and not just done the same old, same old. That would be a tragic error if they did that. So anyway, I'm long-winded. I'm very passionate about this. I think it's a great opportunity, and I hope we take advantage of it.
Thank you, Bruce. We're amongst passionate people anyway, so your comments are very appreciated, and thank you very much for your insights, because they're very, very true. And thank you for this, and thank you for attending today. Other questions?
Yeah, hi, Larry Rapp here. Can you hear me?
Hey, Larry, how are you? Yes, of course, very good. Welcome.
Very good. Thank you, Bertrand. Hi, Dietmar.
Hi, Larry.
Just a couple of thoughts.
I mean, the legacy people you have all invited.
Yeah, we have all the big people in the cruise industry, huh, Larry?
Just a couple of thoughts on Bruce's points. First of all, I think you're absolutely spot on, Bruce, that we're talking about two scenarios here, pre and post vaccine. And God help us, I hope we can come up with a vaccine sooner than later. The other issue that hasn't been discussed and I think needs to be addressed is the relationship between shipboard and shoreside medical facilities. You know, all of these ships have been built and their medical facilities have been outfitted with the understanding that severe cases would be taken ashore. And the shoreside facilities in many of these places, among them Japan, really reneged on their obligations during this whole terrible scenario and refused to take patients from the cruise ships. So going forward, we've got to have a clear understanding of where those responsibilities lie.
Very good point.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thank you.
Absolutely. Nice to hear your voice, Larry.
Yeah, good to see you,
Bruce. Bruce too.
It's a meeting of experts.
I tell you, this subject of the idea of ship and shore relations and taking care of the impact on the local communities, it's one of the biggest stumbling blocks to the success of the reentry in the market.
Yeah.
We have to win back, as an industry, when I say we, I'm talking about the cruise industry, have to win back the confidence of the destinations we visit. And the only way that'll happen is if we communicate well. What the cruise lines can do as an industry is we can create and use the technology that's available to provide proper documentation for the health conditions of our guests on board, for the crew as well, and have that ready so that when we're coming to a port, we've already sent by internet the manifest, the health backgrounds, anything that we need to provide with the community to let them know that our passengers have been constantly checked, their temperatures, they're non-symptomatic. And of course, this will be, and that all, in the future, phase 2, all of our passengers have their certificates in hand so that to prove that they've been vaccinated. If we can build that trust again, we can avoid some of these really ugly circumstances that happened. It was a disaster, and it was inhuman what we were doing to our staff on board and our passengers. We didn't really have much room. Most of it was generated by the destination's unwillingness to go ahead and let the people get off the vessel. I understood why they were in those positions. There was a lot of miscommunication, but at the same time, the cruise lines have to take care of business. They have to go ahead and take the initiative, work with the destinations, and use the technology and the protocols available, which are existing today, to go ahead and provide the kind of information so the destinations will be happy. But you know, it has to be done. But there's no doubt that they were really upset, and it gave CDC a black eye. It gave the industry a black eye, and the destinations look stupid. So there were no winners in this situation. It has to be solved together. But the cruise industry has to take the responsibility to be the catalyst to make that happen.
Yeah. Yes.
Very good point.
Well spoken.
Yeah, very good point. Very good point, actually. Other questions maybe for the students? Or for any
question for the students, please. So first, I just want to say it was an amazing presentation. You guys did very, very good job presenting and with thorough research. I just had a quick question. I think Bruce spoke about it briefly about, before the pre and post vaccination. But just because my question kind of relates to my company focuses on producing sanitary products. So I'm just curious to know, through conducting your primary and secondary research, were you able to find out what exact sanitary requirements will the cruise industry have to adopt to upon reopening their operations? And with these short-term like requirements, let's just say, how long do you think these experts predict that they'll be in place for?
Who would want to, in the students, do you have, in the presentation students, do you have an answer to provide, or?
So we elaborated the fact that medical facilities are going to be used for a long time. And as Bruce said, there's two parts between pre-vaccine and post-vaccine. So we have no idea how long it's going to take and how the basis of it will last. But we know that it's going to last quite some long time because we need, as everybody said here, the trust needs to come back. So until the trust isn't back, the medical facilities and the sanitation and everything will stay.
There's a key point here too that somebody mentioned to me the other day. It was so logical. It was hysterical. Is that what we're doing now needs to have the forethought of this is going to happen again. This is not the first time a virus has hit the world. These things come around every 5 to 10 years. It's Mother Nature's most cruel task to keep mutating viruses so that one after another, whether it's from a pig or a bat or a dog or a cow, we keep getting this stuff, and we're going to continue to have that as we become a more crowded world. So we need to have things on board ships, embarkation, in the ports of call, in our daily lives that give ourselves the chance to prevent outbreaks. And when we do have one, we have everything in place so that we know what to do, and the destinations know what's coming so that they know how we're going to do and what they can expect from us. So it's really critical that pre or post vaccine, it's going to happen again. And it's up to us to give ourselves the best protection for the crew and the guests so we don't have these kind of circumstances.
Absolutely correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, very good, very good. Yeah, you're completely right. Any other questions or comments or suggestions?
A nice picture on the video, by the way. Makes you want to go on a cruise to Alaska.
Good point.
Anyway, yeah. Thank you, Bruce.
Right. They did, and again, I must stress the fact that this was a very short presentation. They've done a tremendous amount of. There's a 60-page report with so much data, so much, and again, we're making this available to whoever would be interested. They also had the opportunity, if I may comment on a few things to finish the meeting. This was a unique opportunity for the students to work on something that not only is highly relevant to what's going on today, but also for them to learn. I think it was a tremendous learning experience to be able to apply some of what they know, what they learn in school, to something that is real, to something that, you know, is relevant to us as cruise executives. And the opportunity that they had to speak, and they handled it all by themselves, to speak to some of you and more people. I think they spoke to many C-level executives in the cruise industry, is also absolutely tremendous. I mean, it's very rare to be able to, you know, speak to people such as, well, we heard about Larry, about Bruce, you know, Peter, of course. Peter is a very good friend for yours, so I know you would help. And again, you know, thank you to all of them. Dietmar was of tremendous help, and just for them, the ability to speak to you guys is just such a treasure, and you've made a difference in their lives. You've made a difference in probably their career choices. And I know for a fact that the students will remember this case study for a very long time, because of what they learned and because of what you gave them back. You gave back to them, sorry. And so for this, thank you very much. I think we're going to close it. It's about an hour, which was our allotted time. I will give a final word to Dietmar in a second. But before I do that, I would like again to thank the students. You cannot imagine how proud I am of you. And I know it was very difficult in the past few months to do all this remote learning, you know. For those of you that don't know me, you know, of course, I have a job, but I also teach at the University of Monaco, and we had to do into remote teaching as the pandemic grew. And initially I was very scared about this, but I was fortunate to have one of the best class I ever had this year. And they were so engaged, and they made it easy for me. They made it easy, and they created tremendous value. I always say that I learn as much from the students that hopefully they learn from me. And guys, I learned so much from you those 2 semesters. I'm so thankful. And from the bottom of my heart, I'm so proud of you today. So thank you.
So much.
Thank you.
Thank you. I mean, I just want to add on. I mean, you know, you are the voices of the future. Don't forget, and we welcome you in the cruise industry. And hopefully, this was a good way for you to. I mean, right now is maybe, you know, not a good time, but the sun will always come out after the storm. Thank you also for your inspiration. Thank you to Larry and Bruce. Good to hear them. And those are legacy players in our industry. And, you know, we are still a young industry, and we will, you know, continue. And I hope to welcome you, each one of them, and make a career in the cruise business. All the best from Miami.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye, the cruise capital of the world.
Thank you.
Everybody, if I can just ask.
Congratulations, guys. Well
Cheers,
done.
well done.
Well done.
Ask for the IUM students to remain online, as well as Annalisa, Sophie, and Lilian. Everybody else, thank you very much for participating today. It was a pure pleasure. And thank you again. And if you need any information, contact me, contact Annalisa, contact the students, because you're in touch with the students as well, or contact Sophie De Lorenzo. And thank you very much. I will keep the students. I will keep Annalisa, Sophie, and Lilian. Thank you.
Thank you very much to all the guests.
Hello?
Yes.
Can you hear me? This is Bruce. I just wanted to share one more thought with you because you're going to continue to develop some of these things. Yeah. When you mentioned that there needs to be discounted prices to get everybody back on board the ships and things like that, that is a radically different position pre or post vaccine. During this next period of time, while people are still uncertain and people are going to be wearing masks and social distancing, if you want to get people on any vacation, you're going to have to give them a good deal, relatively speaking. But if the industry does its job and it comes back, and so when that vaccine is available and people can protect themselves and they've made ships secure and they have the message to say that it's conceivably the safest destination in the world, they will not have to discount as much. And they will probably return to their normal price levels much faster than people realize. But it's going to be based on how serious and authentic their solutions are and how little BS they put into it. It's got to be the real McCoy, and it's got to be legitimate. People are waiting for that. They'll absorb it, they'll support it, and they'll come back and they'll pay the price.
Yeah. No, very good point. But also, you know, the good thing is the cruise industry also has a history of being not only very resilient, but also very innovative. You know, I always say that I grew to what I am today because I worked on this. And I think the creativity of the people in the cruise industry means that, you know, I feel very optimistic about, you know, finding the right solutions, and as you said, Bruce, the right solutions, the solutions that are permanent and that are not just, like you said, BS, you know, things that are just pure marketing in a sense.
We have come up with a slogan that we refer to some of my associates in the business. That when people are coming out with these new protocols and they have these big, long public relations releases where they talk about all the things they're going to do and they're going to work with the Mayo Clinic, and Trump is going to wear a mask on their ship or whatever it is that they're saying, it usually includes social distancing, wearing masks, and spraying more often. And I call that the spray and pray philosophy, because at the end of the day, doing the same old is not going to carry the weight here. People have to see a material difference in what we're doing. And that's really important, because that's I've actually been disappointed in some of the companies that have announced their protocols. I've seen one or two that actually are starting to show signs of putting details and exactly what they're going to do and what they're installing and how they're going to purify the air, whatever it is. But the majority of them, unfortunately, have already started to use the spray and pray philosophy. And I hope they don't get in trouble, because this whole period before we have a vaccine is, look what's happening here in North America. I mean, we're having spikes back of the virus again, because guess what everybody did? They're going back to doing the things they did before. And why anybody would think that would not create more virus cases, I don't know. But so what we're having is what they all predicted would happen. So if you want to not have that, you have to be catalytic in what you do. You have to be different, and you have to change. So your messages are very well received, and I'll be glad to help you guys and girls anytime I can.
Thank you so much.
So much appreciated. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
All right, guys. So all the students are here. Annalisa, Sophie.
No, we have still 29 participants, so we are gonna let them leave the room before buying, you know, alone to comment. So
maybe I can start with a comment that is, even if it is heard by somebody else, is not an issue. Because actually, I would like, this is the third corporate project presentation that I attend today. So I did brand management, I did my fashion, and then I listened to you guys. And actually, what is the first thing that comes to my, that is very evident, is the evolution since the day one you enter at school in the master up until now. So I would like to take a picture of each and one of you and then make a comparison with the pictures of the first day at school. It seems that, because believe that this is, I don't know what is happening, but every year is like this. So actually there is such a change based on, you know, on many things. Of course, it's not just because of this project, but I think that this project is the catalyst of all possible energies, because what the other students were saying when I finished the comments with the fashion students, actually, this is the real application of something. So studying theories and then even business cases, but is not a real study, is not as real as this kind of big projects. And then also, thanks to Bertrand, so talking with CEOs and not just clients, it is also something unique. So maybe because the 10 months has passed now, whatever it is, but really, really, really congratulations. And the presentation skills, I don't even mention that.
Yeah, it was very well delivered. I must say, you guys, well, you probably rehearsed, but it was very well delivered. I just want to point out, as I was pointing out when I was chatting on
sorry, may I propose you maybe to switch to another Zoom meeting? You know, I think that we have to let people leave, and we have still 27 participants,
Sophie,
you know, in that room.
Sophie, you can dismiss them if you want, huh?
Yeah,
they don't leave, you can dismiss them.
I think only the students now and us, huh?
No, there are one, two.
You know, I'm inviting you in a separated link, you know, now, okay? I'm inviting you in a separated link.
Aspetta, Sofia, I'd like to say hi, because actually I need to prepare the other webinar, because I'm switching to the fourth webinar of the day.
No problem. So I join you in a few minutes. So Clara, Hugo, Bertrand.
But all the class.
No, all the class, Sophie. You have to invite all of them.
I would like to say one word for the entire class. So please, if we could have all the class as well as Lilian.
I don't have all the name, Bertrand. So that's the thing. So
Clara will communicate.
Yeah,
Clara, you can share it to all the class. I send you the link and you share it to the class. Okay, I'm doing it now. I'm ending that meeting and we can have another meeting right now. This meeting is recorded. Thank you very much.
Bye.